Hey, just wanted to pop in. Want to make a relatively quick video um, talking about and reviewing, if you will, this book I just finished, The Emotional First Aid um, Kit Life After Bariatric Surgery. And it's by Cynthia L. Alexander. It was recommended to me by one of my nutritionists on the bariatric team. Um, I'll just jump in. So, just in general, I didn't really care for it. I didn't like it. It wasn't overwhelmingly helpful. Like, I didn't feel like there was too much I learned or gained or didn't already know. So this book wasn't for me. That saying With that in mind, I had already done a lot of research already, and I had already like posted in Facebook groups, asked poll poll questions to get feedback, and what was your top this and that, and just reading people's blogs and Instagram accounts and asking them. um in those It was almost 5 weeks, I think, between my initial like info session to when I had my first one-on-one appointment. It was like either 5 or 6 weeks. So I had already done this. Like, I could have wrote this, to be honest. But that's no slight, again, to Dr. Alexander. But it just, again, was not for me. Okay. So, but still, there were still things to take away, and that's what I just want to go over, or share with you a few things that either like I hadn't heard it called that, or I thought it was a good idea, or I think it really needs to be emphasized, or I'm seeing patterns, that kind of thing. So first off, she starts about talking about making the decision, of course, whether or not to have surgery. And she recommends having a pros and cons of having surgery and doing a pros and cons of not having surgery. And she just recommends making, a little square. You can just write yours out on a piece of paper, whatever. I literally did the same thing. I wrote it. It wasn't pros and, well, actually, I'm trying to think of my pros and con list. I think mine was just pros and cons of surgery, period. But you can break it down into the pros and cons having surgery, pros and cons not having surgery. I just did one. So if you haven't done that yet and you're still on the fence, I definitely recommend making a pros and cons list. Secondly, I wanted to point out her section about the holidays. The holidays, in most countries and families, is a big deal, and they're about food, especially in the United States. I'll try to just speak for myself. And if you have bariatric surgery, that right there is going to completely change your experience with the holiday season, which more or less like starts with Halloween for us. And she, I believe, even starts, yeah, at Halloween. Just after Halloween, sit down and really think about the holidays. She recommends that you ask what foods are you're most interested in. If there's like certain things, like for me, for Thanksgiving, it's sweet potato casserole. I have to have it. It's not Thanksgiving without it. Um, and I'm sure people have other ones, like for Christmas, for us, it's cinnamon rolls for breakfast. That's like one of our things. So she says, to kind of plan it out. If there are specific things that you definitely have to have, go ahead and more or less plan out slash ration. So if like for me, it would just be in particularly like the sweet potato casserole and maybe some turkey. I never eat that much anyways. just kind of put it in your head or write it out. I'll have 2 bites of sweet potato casserole and 2 bites of turkey. Maybe you've got also macaroni cheese, so maybe it'll be 1, 1, 1. That kind of thing. So that way you don't make this plate and then you just overeat and get sick. If you already know what it should look like, size-wise on your plate, because you've already decided I'm only going to take 2 bites of this, then you scoop out your 2 bites. She also says, put whatever extras on a plate and in the fridge or freezer immediately. That way it doesn't go bad and you can still have more later if you choose to. She is not trying to punish you for going back, for leftovers. It was like, oh, she understands. So that was a pretty big one for me. I really like that idea. It let some of the anxiety and air out about this whole thing. Third, she updated her language about the time or how long it takes to create a habit. I don't know if you've heard about this, but people are whispering that whole 21 days thing is utter BS. It is more like 6 months to a year. Some people might 4 months, but it is not 21 days. But that's a good start. So when you can put, the reason this was huge for me is because if you can put that in your mind that I really have to commit my timeline to really narrow this down and to figure this out is actually this long as opposed to this long, and I keep failing every time, it gives you a better perspective, in my opinion, and you'll be more likely to be successful if you can see your big picture. So maybe you do miniature goals within the 6 months. So no breaks for the first 4 weeks. Then maybe there's another thing. Okay, another 4 weeks, and then I'll get a treat, buy a new pair of jeans, whatever. You know what I mean? Okay, so I love that she tries to multiple places talk about and mention how it takes longer, and then she does special little blocks on some pages. She put a little blocky block as well, so you can't say you didn't. Oh, I didn't know it was 6 months. Why did I fold this one? This would be 4th. Triggers, that's why. Okay, so 4th, she's got a nice list here on suggestions. My cats. It's raining, so they're going crazy. Suggestions on trying to figure out what a trigger is for you. And she has some really good points and questions in terms of of course, how do you feel before you eat, while you're eating, after you're eating? What were you doing literally before you started eating? Were you actually hungry? How hungry? Where were you? Were you in your bedroom? Were you in the living room? Were you in the kitchen? You guys, cut it out, please. Time of day. Did something happen at work? Did something happen at school? Did something happen at home? Family, husband, wife. You get the gist. All of that. So she really goes into very good detail, in my opinion, about trying to pinpoint your triggers. That way, if you do move forward with surgery, you might see it coming a mile down the road, and you can mentally prepare yourself, but also have coping skills and a different game plan than using food as a way to deal and cope with that. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that to you all. Okay. 5th was just in general, there wasn't really anything specific per se. On the topic of alcohol, some people seem to just be absolutely unfamiliar with the fact that statistically alcoholism is a high risk. It's not a probable, but it is a high risk after bariatric surgery. And one thing, she goes over in two different sections, but this one in particular, she goes into the dangers of it in a couple of case studies and some suggestions about dealing with it. But the thing in particular that I like that she said was like a general rule of thumb to go by: if you don't drink now, there's no need for you to start. And sure, it's easy to say that, but we know what transfer addiction is as well, and she talks about that as well. So you can't use food anymore, so you might start drinking. So she goes in further of that. And then secondly, with the alcohol still, is if you do drink already a couple times a week, once you reach your goal weight and your doctor is okay with it, then you can go back to having 2 or 3 a week. Not a setting, not Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the week. So, we're told to do things in moderation, and that's literally the example of doing something in moderation. So you don't have to get rid of it, but you need to keep an eye on it. Okay, we're almost done. So the other one that it was just like I didn't know that had a name. Of course it has a name. Psychologist names everything. Was chaining. Chaining is more or less your habit, your little routines, your procedures. One example is getting in the car, you close the door, you put on your seatbelt, you put your key in the ignition, you press the gas pedal, and turn the key. You did not have to think about any of those steps because you've done it that way 1,000 times. All you have to do is get in the car. So what her idea is to develop a chain when it comes to your routine, your new lifestyle routine. So maybe it's that you need to get up every day at 5:30, then go to the gym, and this is high level. Go to the gym, breakfast or protein shake, shower, vitamins, read newspaper, like that kind of thing. She recommends you really being clear about what your schedule is, which is like, duh, we get told that all the time, but for some reason hearing it, that seatbelt and a couple other examples she has, and knowing that it actually had a name called chaining, it just made it all like solidify for me. So I just wanted to share that. Okay, is this the last one? Or is there one more? Okay, 2 more. Okay, so next. I don't want this to be too long. No, I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to change that. So this one is the last one then. She's got her to-do list. It's not just the to-do list. It's actually the entire section about the mental stress, depression after surgery is what the chapter is. And I like that she goes through it in great detail. You can try to prepare for this as much as you want, but you You really just don't know until you actually go through it. So she talks about how the different ways people respond or have responded and can respond, and not only you but your family and family or friends, acquaintances and stuff, as they see you changing and making changes as well, and how that can affect you in different versions of, or the way the depression or even bullying, how they look. So, you know, it might just be that you're irritated all the time, or you feel worthless, or your sleep is changing. All of those things are signs of depression, and sometimes we just write it off as to like, it's just a change, like whatever. I'm going to make sure on this to-do list there wasn't anything in particular. Yeah, just some suggestions. One thing that my psychiatrist mentioned to me is the change of absorption of our stomach. Since it's so much smaller, I will have to change what I'm already taking from her for my depression and anxiety, because it's an extended release pill, and it's not going to spend enough time in my stomach to be properly absorbed. So definitely have this conversation with your doctors, with your psychiatrist, your psychologist, your therapist, whomever, your counselor, whatever, especially if you're already taking medications. So that way they can try to find a different dosage that you can take in smaller bits, or completely change you altogether, or whatever it is, okay? I believe that is it. I'm gonna end with her very last section is it true some people do not lose very much weight? And it's not that she's talking about, oh yeah, you know, 4 out of 100 people don't lose weight. She goes through how people have sabotaged this tool, this surgery, and therefore either gain it back or don't lose it. And it really just circles back around to the psychology of this. Yes, this is a physical change you're going to make to your body, but it is mental. It is so mental. It's crazy. And I don't think people see how much mental is with it. So, of course, you know, she pegged me, binge eater. And she's got everything, you know, how people, victims of abuse, if you have an unrealistic goals and expectations and emotional eating, like, you know, she goes through all that as her final, because ultimately that's what's going to stop you from losing weight. Okay, if you made it through this whole video, thank you. I sincerely appreciate that. And again, if you'd like to get it for yourself, by all means, let me know what you think about it. I'm currently now reading Beck is the last name, and I believe it's called something to the effect of like the Beck diet or something like that. How to think like a thin person. It is circled around cognitive behavior therapy. How you have to change your thinking in order to change your eating. That is problem numero uno for moi. So I definitely am going to read it. That one was recommended to me by my psychiatrist. And she said it completely changed her whole practice. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'll check it out and see if it's helpful. So our next review that I do on a book, it'll be when I finish that one. All right, again, thank you. Feel free to share, subscribe, drop in, follow me on Insta. Have a good one.